Heaven's Gate opens with a Harvard University graduation theme, which lasts for nearly 20 minutes. This sequence features a large number of extras and elaborate camera work, likely using cranes. This scene introduces James Avery and his best friend, Billy Irvine, and establishes that they are destined for a bright future. 20 years later, they reunite in Wyoming. By this time, Irvine has become a ranch owner and a member of the WSGA. Initially, he opposes the WSGA's plan to kill numerous immigrants and confesses his concerns to Averill. In the film, Frank Canton, the wealthy rancher leading the WSGA, serves as the primary antagonist. However, in reality, Frank Canton was not a cattle baron, but the former sheriff of Johnson County. He led the hired mercenaries employed by the WSGA rather than the organization itself. As the story progresses, Irvine, despite his initial reluctance, remains aligned with the WSGA and participates in the slaughter of immigrants. This ultimately puts him in direct conflict with Averill. However, the film fails to build up their personal rivalry effectively. The 20-minute graduation theme was presumably meant to intensify their eventual confrontation, yet there is no dramatic one-on-one showdown between them. During the climatic shootout, Irvine drinks heavily and mumbles to himself before being shot and killed by Ella Watson. His death feels completely disconnected from traditional storytelling conventions, making it dramatically unsatisfying. In the film, Irvine is portrayed as a man tormented by guilt, who turns to alcohol as a way to cope with his reluctance to participate in the WSGA's violent actions. However, historical records suggest that the real Irvine was among the most aggressive members of the WSGA, actively leading attacks against new settlers. Ella Watson, the protagonist's girlfriend, does not appear until more than an hour into the film. She is played by Isabelle Huppert, a French actress. Since she speaks English with a foreign accent, her character is portrayed as an immigrant from a non-English speaking country. Ella is depicted as a beautiful prostitute, which causes resentment among ordinary women who dislike her popularity. While it is not entirely implausible for a high-ranking marshal to take prostitute as his girlfriend, the film does not portray how they met or developed their relationship. Instead, it simply shows them already romantically involved, making this aspect of the story feel unconvincing. Additionally, Ella is shown to be in love with Nathan Champion as well. The cattle she receives as payment for her services are considered stolen from the WSGA, placing her on their hit list. She is later violated by WSGA mercenaries. Enraged by this, Nathan confronts his employers, the WSGA, and is ultimately killed. The scene depicting Nathan's death closely follows historical accounts. Nathan Champion and a man named Nick Ray are inside a cabin when WSGA mercenaries attack from the outside. Nick Ray, played by Mickey Rourke, is killed in a hail of bullets. The mercenaries then load firewood and hay onto a wagon, set it on fire, and ram it into the cabin. As the flames engulf the building, Champion emerges and is shot dead. A notebook found in Champion's blood-stained clothing contained details of the battle. He ended his final letter with these words: "The house is all fired. It don't look as if there's much chance of my getting away. Goodbye if I never see you again. Nathan the Champion." In reality, this shootout was the climax of the Johnson County War. Unlike in the film, Champion held out for hours before the mercenaries, unable to defeat him, resorted to setting the cabin on fire. His death is depicted more briefly in the film, likely because Cimino wanted to include another large-scale gunfight afterward. However, this later battle never actually took place in history. The intense standoff between the two men in the cabin and the surrounding mercenaries could have served as the film's ultimate climax. Similar setups have been used effectively in other films. For example, in LA Confidential, the two protagonists barricade themselves inside a house for a final shootout. Hong Kong, the killer follows the same formula, as does Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Each of these films delivers a satisfying conclusion to the audience. Heaven's Gate contains several stylistic choices that reflect Cimino's unique vision, though some of them are difficult to understand. One particularly odd thing occurs 20 years after the Harvard University graduation. When Avery and Irvine reunite, Cimino employs a peculiar visual trick that few viewers seem to notice. The camera follows Irvine as he leaves a WSGA meeting and walks upstairs. As he reaches the upper floor, he appears on the left side of the frame and starts walking. Simultaneously, another Irvine enters from the right side of the frame. The audience naturally assumes that the Irvine on the left is a reflection in a mirror. This technique may remind viewers of similar mirror-based visual effects in other films. A well-known example is the theme from Ghost, where the camera appears to be filming the main characters from the front, only for the shot to later reveal that they were being viewed through a mirror. However, in Heaven's Gate, the Irvine on the left is not a reflection. Instead, Cimino likely placed a lookalike on the right side of the frame to create the illusion of a mirrored image. Few people seem to have noticed this subtle trick. It is unclear why Cimino chose to include such an illusion. Perhaps it was simply an artistic idea he wanted to experiment with. Film critic Pauline Kael offered this assessment of Cimino's approach. "I think that Cimino did have a vision, but you don't have to be a clear thinker to be a visionary. He got caught up in the visual possibilities and lost sight of the basics. The stairway scene likely did not cost much. There is nothing wrong with coming up with creative visual ideas and executing them effectively." Now let's examine the scene just before the intermission. The army sent to defeat the settlers disembarks from the train. Irvine, on horseback, watches them leave. Drinking alcohol, he mournfully states, "Armor made the knight, the crown a king. What are we?" As he and his horse are enveloped in the smoke from the locomotive, they gradually disappear. When the smoke clears, they are gone. The intention behind this scene is likely to suggest that Irvine's ideas and hopes were fleeting, destined to vanish. The horse and Irvine, positioned on the left side of the frame, are obscured by the smoke. At the moment, the horse must have turned left and exited the frame. Since this was filmed in an era without CG, it is easy to imagine that multiple takes were required to get it right. The scene must have been costly to produce, once again showcasing Cimino's meticulous attention to detail. Midway through the film, there is a scene in which Ella is violated by WSGA mercenaries. Averill arrives, climbs onto the roof, and peers through a second-floor window. Inside, Ella's fellow prostitutes have been attacked and are unconscious. Averill then slits the throat of a man who is watching the first-floor window before killing two of the three mercenaries. However, he fails to eliminate the last one. Why did Averill need to climb onto the roof? Likely Cimino wanted to include a shot showing the unconscious prostitutes. However, there was no real necessity for Averill to witness this himself. In novels, protagonists must experience events firsthand since the story is told from their point of view. However, films are not bound by this rule. Cimino's meticulous approach is evident in such scenes, but these details often go unnoticed by the audience. This primary reason is likely the film's excessive length. Cimino had the entire street set rebuilt because he believed horses can't go through. He insisted on procuring a real locomotive, significantly increasing the budget. The number of extras was drastically increased, and retakes were repeated endlessly. As a result, the film's original $11 million budget ballooned to $44 million. In order to break even, the film needed to earn at least double or triple that amount. Instead, it grossed only $3.5 million. Cimino seems to have little regard for filming as a business. No one advised him to take a different approach, or if they did, he did not listen. How would other directors have handled this? Although the 1980s were not yet the era of CG, advanced visual effects techniques were available. He could use miniatures and matte paintings to portray the town. Instead of procuring real locomotive, if they make the set of it, they may have reduced the cost. However, Cimino, in his relentless pursuit of authenticity, never considered such alternatives. No matter how much the budget escalated, he likely believed the film would be a massive hit. It could be said that this level of obsession bordered on madness. It is easy to imagine that Michael Cimino felt an overwhelming sense of omnipotence at the time, given the immense praise the Deer Hunter received. He may have seen himself as an untouchable visionary. Perhaps every artist needs a degree of self-belief, but in Cimino's case, his mindset at the time appears to have been deeply flawed. The alleged incidents of animal abuse on set are a disturbing reflection of this. According to a final cut by Stephen Beck, John Scott, a stuntman and livestock manager, criticized Cimino for his mistreatment of animals. Scott stated that Cimino showed no concern for either the actors or the animals. The two reportedly had a major altercation over the issue. During the filming of a battle scene, a horse was killed when explosives buried beneath the ground were detonated. The stuntman riding the horse at the time was hospitalized. Wires were also strung up to trip galloping horses, a practice that had long been banned in the film industry. The American Humane Society claimed that 4 horses were killed and many more were injured during the filming. Additionally, real animal blood was used instead of theatrical blood. This in itself constitutes animal abuse. The use of real blood was also prohibited at the filming location. as it could attract grizzly bears. Cimino's distorted sense of values is evident in his apparent disregard for the suffering of animals, whether physically or mentally, in the pursuit of artistic expression. There is no cinematic pleasure to be gained from the real-life harm or death of animals. Most audiences find it disturbing and repulsive. In the classic film The Wild Bunch, there is a well-known scene in which a bridge is blown up, causing horses to fall into a river. Many viewers find the scene powerful upon first watching. However, it has been reported that several horses were injured or killed during its filming. Knowing this, is there anyone who would still think it is acceptable to make a film that endangers animals? Despite its many issues, this film is not entirely bad when watched at home. A production of this scale, with its massive budget and extensive manpower, has an undeniable visual appeal. If you haven't seen it, I suggest giving it a watch. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up.